This is Take Back Our Power with host Joy Bina. Information that supports community health. Information empowering you with personal health. Take back our power. And now, here's Joy.
Welcome to Take Back Our Power. I'm Joy Bina. Today we are continuing to explore the issue of global warming and what our Tri-County area can do to help mitigate what truly is the life-threatening challenge of our time. I have three guests who will continue the dialogue. Daniel Nelson is the Deputy Director of the Santa Cruz-based nonprofit Law and Policy Center, the Romero Institute. Currently, he is leading the Green Power project of the Romero Institute. Green Power is partnered with the Catholic Diocese of Monterey, as well as local government officials, to promote energy efficiency, rooftop solar, and community choice energy throughout the Monterey Bay region. He holds a BA in political theory from Harvard and an MA in social science from the University of Chicago. Juan Martinez is the Policy Outreach Director and Field Organizer for the Green Power Project at the Romero Institute. Born and raised in Salinas Valley, attended local schools, Juan has been involved in political organizing in the Salinas Valley for more than 30 years. During the 1970s, he worked with Cesar Chavez, and during the 80s, he supported the farm workers for California Rural Legal Assistance. He also served for several years as a legislative consultant to the San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown and was the statewide director for the Southwest Voter Registration Education Project. Tomas Morales Rebecky is a Ventura County organizer for the Food and Water Watch. Based in Oxnard and Ventura, California, he worked with local communities and statewide organizations to ban fracking. His background is in civil engagement, running voter registration drives, and managing political campaigns. Immediately prior to joining the Food and Water Watch, Tomas worked in his home community of San Benito as field director and co-campaign manager for Measure J, the first successful voter initiative in California to ban fracking, cyclic steam injection, and acidizing at the county level. He graduated from San Diego State University with a bachelor's degree in political science and Spanish. Welcome to Take Back Our Power.
Thank you, Joy.
Nice to have you here.
Good to be here.
Good. So Danny, let's start with you. Tell us the vision of the Romero Institute.
So we're a nonprofit. It's a law and policy center. We've been in Santa Cruz now for about 13 years, Joy. We have a legacy. So our founders, Sarah Nelson, Daniel Sheehan, founded a law firm in Washington, D.C. about 25, 30 years ago now, called the Christic Institute. And so they did a series of very important lawsuits back then related to the environment and constitutional rights, things of that nature. And so the Romero Institute now continues that work. We are faith-based. We're not. We don't have any particular affiliation with any particular religion, but we do. We're inspired by our spirituality, and we have a tendency to work with faith communities in the work that we do. So again, we've been here for 13 years, and now we are primarily focused on climate change here in the Monterey Bay area. I can get more into the details.
Yeah, well, how does the Green Power Project relate to the vision of the Romero Institute?
So Green Power is an initiative that we began this year, January. So we are especially moved by Pope Francis's recent work on climate. So in 2015, he issued an encyclical called Laudato Si, in which he said that climate is the biggest problem that faces us now as a human family. From an environmental point of view, it's a major catastrophe that is still not properly understood. It's not animating our actions in the way that it really ought to be. So he identified it as a moral and a spiritual problem. And through his support behind us, taking action now and not continuing to wait. So, we've worked with faith communities for a long time, have a special relationship with the Catholic Church. Here in Monterey Bay, we now have a formal partnership with the Diocese of Monterey. They represent about 250,000 people in the Tri-County area, Santa Cruz, Monterey, and San Benito. So we're working together now on climate. That's the objective that we have. So that's kind of the founding concept of green power. Mm-hmm. And we have two different organizing agendas. One is kind of more lifestyle related, and the other is more abstract, more kind of policy oriented. On the lifestyle side, we are working with mainly Catholic churches to create energy efficient infrastructure and investigate the possibility of installing solar panels. Mm-hmm. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of real estate controlled by the Catholic Diocese, and of course other faith communities too. We are in communication with them as well, but mainly the Catholic Church. And if you can imagine, taking all of these buildings, schools, churches, etc., rectories, and making them energy efficient and also adding rooftop solar, you've got this incredible potential there. So that's part of the work that we're doing. We have an energy efficiency partner in Santa Cruz that we work with, a private company. So we go to each of these churches and work with them to do that work. And I think now we've got about 10 large Catholic parishes that are engaged with us around this potential, and we're hoping to arrive at all 46 of the parishes in the diocese. That's where things are headed. Now, the other part of our work is the policy part, and that in some ways is even more exciting because it has the ability to affect even more people. Community choice energy is the policy that we have decided to focus on. That is an incredibly exciting, relatively new tool that California has got, is able to use here to get to switch away from reliance upon fossil fuels. So it's a law that was passed in 2001. And it exists in 6 other states as well. So 7 states across the country have this option. And the counties and the cities are where this becomes actionable. So the way it works is a county and or a city will decide that it wants to take over its own electricity supply. So instead of relying upon the monopoly utility method for producing electricity, here it's Pacific Gas and Electric is the monopoly utility. Instead, the communities themselves take over the aggregation of electricity and then the provision of that electricity to their citizens. So now, it doesn't mean that they have to produce it all themselves, but they can. So what happens basically is that a nonprofit entity, a joint powers agreement is created, and then government officials are able to determine what kind of electricity they want to purchase on the open market. They aggregate that together and then they resell that to the community. And in every case in California, the rates have come down as compared to PG&E or the monopoly. And also the percentage of renewables that's in the portfolio of electricity goes up significantly. So for example, in Sonoma County, they have, I think they're at 60% now renewables. It's a very high percentage that they've achieved in just 2 years. And because it's a local nonprofit where the monies are pooled and spent on local projects, they've got $35 million in surpluses that they've set aside in the bank that they're going to be able to use to build out solar farms, wind farms, these kinds of things. So it's a whole different kind of economic model with both environmental and kind of local build-out benefits for the community. So just to give a quick update about where things stand here, for the past 3 years, government officials in the Tri-County area of San Benito, Santa Cruz, and Monterey have been investigating community choice, and we're just almost there to the point where we're going to form the CCE. It's going to happen probably in January, and the only question at this stage is how big it's going to be. How many of the counties, how many of the cities are going to join? There are 21 different regional jurisdictions that have the option of joining, all of whom have kind of signed on to the investigative phase of the work. And so we as a nonprofit, we are officially part of the outreach team for the Monterey Bay Community Power Group, which is the CCE organization for this Tri-County area. We're part of that outreach team, and we are primarily dealing with faith communities, but also other thought leaders and the Hispanic community to bring people into the fold of this movement and to try to get it across the line. We'd like to see a large community choice program. There are major benefits around having a large one. There's the economies of scale. The cost of power is lower. The purchasing power is higher. So we don't want it just to be say, for example, the county of Santa Cruz. We'd like it to be all 3 counties. So that's what we're pushing for, advocating for as an organization. We will be doing work in Monterey County going forward to encourage electeds here to join the community choice program. It's not a shoo-in. It's not a given that it's going to happen. You know, Monterey County is a big place with a lot of different interests competing to have their voices heard. And so there does need to be engagement on the part of thought leaders and nonprofits and faith communities, et cetera, to make sure that this happens. The Bishop of the Diocese of Monterey has endorsed Monterey Bay Community Power, so there's an official endorsement from the Catholic Church, which obviously is a major player in this area. It speaks for a lot of people. And so we are collaborating with the church to lobby to get this done. So that's kind of where things stand at the moment with Green Power. And if anybody wants to learn more about the project, you can go to greenpower.ngo is the web address where you can learn more. So that's kind of where things stand.
Wonderful,
Yes.
wonderful. There's a lot going on.
Kind of, yes.
And you've done a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Juan, how has your past work organizing the Salinas Valley informed the current work that you're doing with Green Power?
Well, I think it's an added tool that's surely needed, because you got to do a lot of individual communication about what Daniel just said, what he just said as to how it all works. So you got to translate that, and you got to speak to the individual communities about it. And the power structure to be, they're pretty much view themselves as a group that has say, right? They, as a city council, both in Gonzales, all that, all the small towns as they are. So they want to be in the loop, when it comes to this decision-making process. So they're excited about getting the word out as well, and they see a need for it, and that's why we're doing this interview as well. It's to mainly do that. But it's basically, I think my history going back to environmental causes back in the early 70s, I guess you could say, where I got involved with it, and finding that the spraying of toxic chemicals and the folks believing that that's all there is to it, no big deal, you're not going to get hurt. Never really told the truth about it, or the different options and things that we were given as kids. The other, how that kind of, as one grows up and you kind of experience different things, we find it to be true of a lot of levels of stuff. When you go get your first home, PG&E, right? Or you get your rent, you get your water, and you go get your power, right? And what's your choices? So that's kind of really obvious where this whole situation's been at. So our ignorance, and that's individually, has placed us there where we believe that everything's okay just the way it is, and it can't be any better because this is what's on the table in terms of what's available. But now with this, the law that passed in the year 2002, which allowed one to put solar panels on their home and resell the excess value back and get something out of that. Imagine that in a bigger concept, the 3 counties. That's huge. Yes. That's huge. I mean, that's over 500,000 people in Monterey County alone. And then when you talk about the other 2 counties and you talk about individual homes, you're talking about a lot of potential new sources of energy coming out of the individual homes.
If I could just clarify
Please.
one. So
Yeah.
Juan's point is an interesting one. With the Community Choice Program, a whole variety of different options that don't exist now come online for individual households. So just to give an example, right now, PG&E limits the amount of excess energy you can produce using solar panels and then sell back to the grid to about 105% of what you used last year. So they're keeping a cap. But with the CCE, that cap comes off. So then we have something called net metering, where people can oversize the solar installations in their homes or on their businesses, and then if they produce more power than they need, they can sell that back to the grid at a reasonable rate. So Juan's point is that what we do is we end up with a network of kind of micro producers of energy in our own neighborhoods.
Right.
You know, it is a profound
Wonderful.
transformation.
Yeah. Very empowering in every way.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and then being a community involved individual, I've been wanted to see what I could do to make that change and make life better for people. It's just really about the quality of life. If we don't have to be paying PG&E and these guys, and the concern that we have now with when you start looking at that fracking, for example, or just the wars as related to oil and the power struggle to make sure somebody else doesn't get in the position that United States is in.
Good.
You know, it's just a matter of keeping other people away from the oil. It's not about burning oil. It's about making sure nobody else gets it. And there you are. We're stuck. We're stuck in that dilemma. And so this is a great opportunity, as Daniel mentions it. You know, the way it's a whole new program that I think it really needs to be out there more. So, Joy, we thank you for giving us that opportunity to be here to do this.
Pleasure to have you, gentlemen. Yeah. Well, can you speak to how the Salinas Valley, in particular, would benefit from community choice?
Wow, sure. Well, I mean, just the amount of electricity the growers spend on power, the wells. I mean, they're pumping out water all the time, and that's very costly. It's very costly. So if you could reduce that bottom line just on that alone, you're saving a whole lot of people, and they'll be very happy with that alone, because the crops take a lot of energy. So that footprint just on creating that is huge. Then when you look at the processing plants and gas and fuel of taking that to the market and back, what if all those trucks up and down the highway were all electric? You know, and they were produced specially just for the ag industry or for any kind of industry that's moving product around the world. You know, we could be doing that. The panels on the back of a semi truck, for example, could be all padded up with solar panels up on top. So it's just going up and down the highway, it's getting energy, right? It's developing its own energy, keeping the refrigeration going, whatever it needs to do. And what one can get out of it, it just gets better and better. Yeah. So lifting the veil of ignorance is what I'm so happy to be a part of, because I was a part of that back in the day when you could be sprayed with pesticides and everybody, don't worry about it. Yeah, don't worry about it. You know, those days are gone. Yeah.
And Joy, I should just say that the Salinas Valley is a less economically affluent, so it's a less affluent area, part of Monterey. It often gets left out of initiatives that are countywide because of its remoteness and also because of just the lack of money down there. So in our relationship with the church, we have an interest in the underprivileged communities in Monterey County. And so we have a special interest in South County Monterey. We want to support them in being part of this program. They do have special ability to benefit from the Community Choice Program long term because of the land that exists down there, right? So part of the CCE vision is that you create capacity using the surpluses that are generated by the CCE. So, you know, we're not going to be buying large tracts of land in downtown Santa Cruz to produce solar fields. Instead, those are going to have to be put in places where there's an excess of land. So the vision that we're holding is that there could be a local build-out emphasis as part of the Community Choice Program that would then directly benefit the South County of Monterey. So those regions down there. So it's an exchange. But they come online, they join this partnership, and as part of that, they perhaps get some preference for a local build-out in that area. That's the vision that we're holding.
Yeah, there's plenty of sun south of Chular, as we know, because Salinas gets overcast, and then you go south of Chular, you get all that sun and wind as it builds up. So it's a huge opportunity for investment and for solar fields, for example. So the farm workers will be working as agricultural harvesters, but now harvesting energy. And I think that's a great opportunity of investment, of economic growth, and endless opportunity for other potential employment opportunities that might spin off of that grow out of that.
That's right.
Wonderful.
Well, we got to give it a chance. We got to give it a chance, and that's what this is about.
There's really no risk, given the precedents that have been created already in California. Like I said, Sonoma's got $35 million after just 2 years. So instead of sending profits out of the community to PG&E shareholders, not that we have anything against PG&E or their shareholders, it's just that if we have the option of producing our own power and keeping all of that economic vitality here at home, it just makes sense to do that. It's not something that poses much risk to the communities that join in. I should just on the political side, I should mention that you know, part of what the electeds in Monterey County they're concerned about right now is the buy-in cost, but they shouldn't be, because the reality is written into the language here that's part of the formation of the Joint Powers Agreement is that, you know, any entity, any jurisdiction that decides when it's time to actually start the CCE, that there is the CC is not promising to meet the renewable standards, or the cost of power is going to be higher than it was anticipated to be, they can pull out at the last minute. So really there's no argument to be made here that we're putting our necks on the line. You can just take it, the County of Monterey can join this effort with Santa Cruz and San Benito, more or less risk-free, and walk it right up to the line and just kind of see where things stand at that last minute. It's a very seamless transition in terms of going from the monopoly utility over to the CCE. So there's lots of opportunity to kind of to make a change at the last minute if you need to. So that, I just want to put that out there because that's part of the politics right now in Monterey County. And it's just, it seems specious. It's not based on reality. And so that's part of our job as a nonprofit, is to make sure that we're educating people about what the realities are here with respect to CC. It is a risk-free endeavor for the most part.
Wonderful.
We have the Hartnell campus. It used to be called the East Campus, but now it's the Business Technology Agricultural Center. That could be a great institution just for educating the community for this new frontier, new future.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I could do it out of there.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thomas, let's talk about fracking.
Yes.
Yeah, and what's the status of Measure Z to ban fracking in Monterey
Yes,
County?
so Measure Z. So for a lot of people that don't know what fracking is, very quickly, fracking is a new technique to get tight oil and gas from deep down in shale, and they'll use millions of gallons of water and also chemicals added, lots that we don't know of, but the ones that we do know cause cancer, and they inject them into the ground to break up gas and oil and bring it up to the surface. And there's a lot of risks that come with this process. You can contaminate water. It can cause earthquakes. It's already been proven to cause earthquakes in Oklahoma and here in California, and it can contaminate our water for the future. So as we've talked about already, here in Monterey County, we rely heavily on groundwater, pumping it up. So if we poison our water, we're going to poison our crops for the future too. So in a time when we need to be moving away to sustainable, renewable energy, we're increasing our dependency and continuing this dependency on oil by using these new techniques that are extremely more risky to us. So other states and other counties have been taking it upon themselves to ban these risky measures too. So here in Monterey County, there's actually a very active oil industry down by the Salinas River south of King City and San Ardo. And a lot of people don't realize that here in Monterey, we're actually the 4th largest oil producing county in the state of California. And a lot of the oil that we bring up right now is done with cyclic steam and conventional wells, and all that can continue under Measure Z. What Measure Z does, it bans fracking and all these new extreme extraction techniques that can cause earthquakes and contaminate our water. And it allows the rest of the wells to continue, so no jobs will be lost, but it protects us from future fracking, because they have fracked in the past here in Monterey. Back in 2008, they fracked a couple wells in Bradley area. So it's a possibility that they're going to frack in the future. This would stop that. But another very important part of this initiative, Measure Z, would make it so they have to clean up their wastewater that comes up with it. Like I said, here we use cyclic steam injection, but also when you use fracking, a lot of wastewater comes up with the oil. So this oil is contaminated with toxic chemicals and can cause cancer. Right now in Monterey, we're cleaning 1/3 of that water through reverse osmosis and then putting that back into the ground. The remaining 2/3, they're actually pumping back into our protected aquifers, and this measure would require them to clean up 100% of their water before they pump it into our aquifers. Oh. So this just came to our attention last year when the federal EPA came in and did some oversight of our local aquifers. They found out that out of the 40 wastewater injection wells we have here in Monterey County and South County, 30 of them are injecting into a protected aquifer under the Federal Clean Water Act. So they're currently in violation of our Federal Clean Water Act. And that can be water that we could be using for future generations, and it's being poisoned as we speak. They're trying to get an exemption for this, but the best thing we could do is pass Measure Z, because it'll ban fracking and it'll make them clean up 100% of their wastewater. So they're not going to take this lying down the oil industry. They've already spent millions of dollars trying to stop other initiatives throughout the state of California. They spent $2 million here already trying to put ads, to misinformation, make people afraid that we're going to kill jobs. It's going to lose millions of dollars for the local economy. But like I said before, all this does is protect our water for the future, and it leaves the jobs that are there right now. And to be honest, there's only 300 jobs, and compared to the thousands and millions of dollars we have in agriculture and tourism, risking all our water and all our economy for a small sector of our economy is pretty crazy. And and that sector will not be affected, just like I said. So we're moving into our campaigning phase. We really need all the help we get. We're a grassroots coalition of farmers, students, business owners, and right now we have the power in our hands, and we need to take back the power from these corporations, oil companies, private utilities that are putting their own profits ahead of our public's health. So that's really what Measures Z is about. We just had our grand opening and our campaign kickoff this past Saturday. We have an office in the heart of Salinas on 521 South Main Street. So we're open now until November. Like I said, we're running off the people power, so we don't have the millions of dollars that they have. So it's a really grassroots coalition. I've been involved in a couple of fights like this in the past, but this is one of the most significant ones because we're doing it in their home territory where they're drilling, and they know they don't want us to prevent fracking in the future, and they don't want to clean up their own wastewater because it's going to cut into their profits. But our health is way more important than that. So.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And so when you say you've been involved in other efforts in the past, specifically San Benito County,
right.
And how does that effort inform this one? How's
Right.
it- yeah.
So a little background too. I was born and raised just east of here in San Benito County, Hollister, California, and we're all part of the Joint Powers Association too. We're trying to get in on community choice energy, and actually all three of our counties sit on the same formation of the Monterey Shale where they're drilling. Back in 2014, San Benito County is a very small county if no one's ever been there, very rural, a lot of heavy agriculture, just like Monterey. We don't have an established oil industry like Monterey though. We had about 24 wells throughout the whole county, but they wanted to put 1,000 new wells. There's a new proposal to put them right next to our newest national park, the Pinnacles National Park, which we share here in Monterey County too. It's right on the border. And they wanted to put 1,000 new fracking wells right there. So we decided, hey, this is crazy. It was in the time of a drought. We're still in a drought too. We haven't gotten out of our drought. But in an area where we're heavily reliant on agriculture, in a time of drought, with these new technologies that can risk earthquake, water contamination, it just makes perfect sense. We need to stop this. So we tried to get our county supervisors to stop it. Unfortunately, they thought that regulations were the way to go, but there is no safe way to regulate fracking. It's inherently dangerous. So we thought, how are we going to do this? And when our democracy is broken and our elected officials failed us, here in California we have the initiative process, which is a beautiful form of direct democracy where citizens and residents can take an issue to themselves and take it to the ballot. So we did that, and despite all odds, they outspent us 15-1, spent $2 million in one of the smallest counties to stop it. We had the people on our side, and we beat them 60% to 40% in the end. And a lot of people from that fight were from Monterey and from Santa Cruz helping us out. So now I'm working for a nonprofit. Out of that experience, I was able to continue my work, and now I've worked with other communities throughout the state, and I've taken from what I've learned in San Benito and learned stuff with them along the way with other communities fighting this throughout California. And I'm happy to come back to my home area and help us further this fight and get it done here in Monterey too.
Fabulous. Well, gentlemen, we're out of time.
Okay.
I so appreciate the three of you taking the time out of your schedule to come and be with us today on Take Back Our Power.
Thank you, Joy.
And thank you for spearheading this incredibly, critically important mission that each of you are on. Thank you so much.
It's
And
fun.
you're doing an important job by getting the word out.
Exactly.
Thank you.
We thank you for your effort
Thank
as
you.
well.
Thank you.
Okay, Joy.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, well, so glad you were with us today. And coming up soon will be a documentary on global warming locally, how it has affected our area. So stay tuned for what's been happening in your local area on global warming. Thanks for joining us.